The email notification chimes at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that started like any other. My cursor hovers over the message in my inbox, sender listed as Victoria Pemberton, our new regional operations manager. The subject line reads, "Immediate salary adjustment, effective immediately," and something cold settles in my stomach before I even click it open. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The words swim before my eyes as I read them once, twice, 3 times. Due to performance concerns and budget restructuring, my annual salary of $68,000 has been reduced to $1 per year, effective today. $1. The number sits there on my screen like a cruel joke, accompanied by corporate language about improvement opportunities and performance enhancement programs. My hands shake as I grip my coffee mug, the ceramic surface suddenly too hot against my palms. Around me, the familiar hum of Meridian Tech Solutions continues unchanged. My colleagues type away at their keyboards, completely unaware that my world just shifted beneath my feet. The fluorescent lights seem brighter now, harsh and unforgiving, casting everything in stark relief. My name is Elena Vasquez, and I've worked at Meridian Tech Solutions for 7 years. 7 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, and sacrificed weekends. 7 years of building this company from a scrappy startup in a converted warehouse to a multi-million-dollar operation spanning 3 states. I know every line of code in our flagship software, every client quirk, every process that keeps this place running smoothly. But according to Victoria Pemberton's email, I'm apparently worth exactly $1 per year. I close my laptop with more force than necessary, the sharp click echoing in the suddenly oppressive silence of my cubicle. My reflection stares back at me from the black screen, dark circles under brown eyes that used to sparkle with enthusiasm for this job. When did I start looking so tired? When did the passion drain from my face? The answer walks past my desk at that exact moment, her designer heels clicking against the polished concrete floor with military precision. Victoria Pemberton arrived 3 months ago with a Harvard MBA, a wardrobe that costs more than most people's cars, and an immediate agenda to optimize operational efficiency. What that actually means, I've learned, is firing long-term employees and replacing them with cheaper alternatives, while taking credit for the systems we built. Victoria pauses at my desk, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the partition wall. Her blonde hair is pulled back in a severe bun that matches her personality, and her gray suit probably costs more than my monthly rent. "Elena, I trust you received my email?" Her voice carries that particular brand of fake concern that corporate executives perfect in business school. The kind that sounds sympathetic, but feels like ice water. I force myself to meet her gaze, drawing on every ounce of professionalism I can muster. I did receive it, yes. I have to say I'm quite surprised by the decision. Victoria's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Well, as I explained in the email, we need to make some strategic adjustments. Your performance metrics haven't been meeting our new standards, and frankly, your salary was significantly above market rate for someone in your position. The lie slides off her tongue so smoothly I almost admire the technique. My performance metrics have been consistently excellent for 7 years. I built half the systems she's now taking credit for improving. I trained most of the people she's now promoting over me. Could you help me understand which specific metrics you're referring to? I keep my voice level, professional. I'd like to address any concerns and create an improvement plan. Victoria's expression shifts, a flicker of annoyance breaking through her corporate mask. I think the numbers speak for themselves, Elena. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions for the good of the company. I'm sure you understand. What I understand is that Victoria Pemberton has been systematically undermining me since the day she arrived. What I understand is that she's been taking credit for my work while documenting every minor mistake I make. What I understand is that she's building a case to push me out entirely, and this salary cut is just the first step. But what Victoria doesn't understand is exactly who she's dealing with. I watch her walk away, her confident stride carrying her toward the corner office that used to belong to our founder before he stepped back from day-to-day operations. The office where she now holds court, making decisions about people she's known for 3 months based on spreadsheets that don't capture 7 years of dedication. My phone buzzes with a text from my younger sister Carmen. "Dinner tonight? I'm making your favorite enchiladas." The normalcy of it almost makes me laugh. Carmen has no idea that I just became the most overpaid person in corporate history, earning $1 annually for work that generates millions in revenue. I pack up my desk slowly, deliberately. My framed photo of our family at last year's Christmas party goes into my bag first. Then the small, succulent plant my colleague Raj gave me for my birthday. The Engineering Excellence Award I won 2 years ago. The thank you card from our biggest client, praising the system I designed that saved them hundreds of thousands in operational costs. As I gather my things, memories flood back unbidden. The late nights I spent in this office, debugging code while the cleaning crew worked around me. The weekend I came in during the system crash, working 36 hours straight to get everything back online. The training sessions I conducted for new hires, passing on institutional knowledge that can't be captured in any manual. I remember the early days when Marcus Chen, our founder, would order pizza for the whole team, and we'd brainstorm solutions on whiteboards that covered every wall. Back then, we felt like we were building something meaningful together. The company was small enough that everyone's contributions mattered, visible enough that hard work got recognized. Those days feel like a lifetime ago now. "Elena?" Raj appears at my cubicle, his usually cheerful expression creased with concern. "I heard about the salary thing. That's completely insane. You're literally the best engineer we have." I pause in my packing, touched by his support but also aware that Victoria probably has spies everywhere now. "It's fine, Raj. Just some corporate restructuring." "It's not fine." His voice drops to a whisper. "Half the team is talking about it. Everyone knows this is garbage. You basically built the foundation this whole company runs on." The validation feels good, but it also makes the injustice sting worse. If everyone knows how valuable my contributions are, how did Victoria manage to convince upper management that I'm worth $1 per year? Unless she didn't convince them. Unless there's something else going on here. I finish packing my personal items and sling my laptop bag over my shoulder. The weight feels heavier than usual, laden with 7 years of history and an uncertain future. Around me, my colleagues pretend to focus on their work while stealing glances in my direction. The office energy has shifted. Everyone's sensing that something significant just happened, but not quite sure what it means for them. At the elevator, I run into Sarah Mitchell from accounting. We've worked together since my 2nd year here, and she's always been friendly but professional. Today, though, she looks genuinely distressed. "Elena, I'm so sorry about what happened," she says quietly as we wait for the elevator. I process all the salary changes that come through, and when I saw yours, I thought it had to be a mistake. I double-checked it 3 times. The elevator doors open, and we step inside together. As soon as they close, Sarah's professional demeanor cracks. "I've never seen anything like it," she continues. "A salary reduction to $1? That's not restructuring, that's punishment. What did you do to piss off Victoria?" The question hits me like a physical blow, because the answer is nothing. I did absolutely nothing except continue to do my job excellently, while she tried to take credit for my work. I did nothing except politely question her decisions when they contradicted years of established best practices. I did nothing except exist as a reminder that she inherited systems she didn't build and success she didn't earn. "I honestly don't know," I tell Sarah as the elevator reaches the ground floor. "I've been doing the same job I've always done." Sarah shakes her head as we walk toward the lobby. Something's not right about this whole situation. Victoria's been making a lot of changes that don't make sense to those of us who've been here a while. It's like she's trying to erase the company's history and start over with her own version. We pause at the building's exit, and Sarah glances around nervously before speaking again. "Look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but there's been some weird stuff happening with the budget reports. Numbers that don't add up. Expenses that seem inflated. I've been trying to make sense of it, but Victoria handles all the executive-level financials now. My blood runs cold. Financial irregularities combined with systematic elimination of long-term employees who might notice discrepancies? This is starting to sound less like performance management and more like corporate theft." Sarah, if you're seeing things that don't make sense, you should document them. Keep copies of everything.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story.
She nods grimly. I've been doing that already. Look, I know we're not super close, but you're good people, Elena. You don't deserve this. And if something shady is going on, the people who built this company deserve to know about it. We part ways in the parking lot, and I sit in my Honda Civic for several minutes before starting the engine. The interior still smells faintly of the vanilla air freshener Carmen gave me last Christmas, a small comfort in a day full of harsh realities. As I drive home through downtown Phoenix, past the familiar landmarks of a city I've called home for my entire adult life, I try to process what just happened. 7 years of my career, potentially destroyed by someone who's been here for 3 months. My financial security, obliterated with a single email. My professional reputation, now subject to whatever narrative Victoria chooses to spin. But underneath the shock and hurt, something else is brewing. A quiet anger that starts in my chest and spreads outward like warmth from a fire. Victoria Pemberton thinks she knows who she's dealing with, but she's made a critical error in judgment. She assumes I'm just another employee she can push around. Another obstacle to her corporate ambitions that can be easily removed with the right combination of documentation and intimidation. She sees my 7 years here as a liability rather than an asset. My institutional knowledge as a threat rather than a resource. What Victoria doesn't realize is that those 7 years represent more than just employment history. They represent relationships, trust, and knowledge that extends far beyond what appears on any organizational chart. They represent a level of investment in this company that goes deeper than any salary or title could ever capture. And most importantly, what Victoria doesn't realize is that sometimes the quiet person in the corner cubicle, the one who doesn't make waves or demand attention, the one who just consistently delivers excellent work year after year, sometimes that person has secrets that could change everything. I pull into my apartment complex as the sun begins to set over the desert landscape, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that remind me why I love this city. My phone shows 17 missed calls and 43 text messages from colleagues who've heard about the salary cut. The support is overwhelming and heartwarming, but it also confirms what I already knew. This decision makes no sense to anyone who actually understands my value to the company. Inside my apartment, I pour a glass of wine and sit on my small balcony, looking out over the city lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering darkness. 7 years ago, I was a recent graduate with a computer science degree and big dreams about changing the world through technology. I chose Meridian Tech Solutions over bigger, more established companies because I believed in Marcus Chen's vision and wanted to be part of something meaningful from the ground up. I helped build the core architecture that still powers our main product. I designed the security protocols that have prevented any major breaches. I created the automated testing systems that caught thousands of bugs before they reached customers. I trained dozens of new employees and mentored junior developers who are now senior engineers themselves. But more than that, I believed in this company. I turned down job offers with higher salaries because I felt like I was part of a family here. I worked weekends and holidays not because I had to, but because I wanted to see us succeed. I invested not just my time and skills, but my heart in making Meridian Tech Solutions the best it could be. Victoria Pemberton sees all of that as worth exactly $1 per year. My phone rings, interrupting my brooding. Carmen's name appears on the screen, and I answer with a forced cheerfulness that doesn't fool either of us. So, she says without preamble, Mom called me crying because you texted her that you're having work difficulties instead of coming to dinner tonight. What's really going on? I take a sip of wine and consider how much to tell her. Carmen is 2 years younger than me, but infinitely more street smart when it comes to corporate politics. She works in marketing for a pharmaceutical company and has survived 3 different management changes by being adaptable and politically astute in ways I've never mastered. My new boss cut my salary to $1 per year, I say simply. The silence on the other end stretches so long, I think the call might have dropped. Elena, Carmen finally says, her voice dangerously quiet, Please tell me you're joking. I wish I was. $1? As in, singular dollar? Uno dollar? Effective immediately. According to the email I received this afternoon, Carmen unleashes a string of Spanish curses that would make our grandmother blush. That's not legal. That can't be legal. You can't just cut someone's salary to nothing. Technically, it's not nothing. It's $1. And unfortunately, Arizona is an at-will employment state. As long as they're paying minimum wage for hours worked, they can pretty much set salaries however they want. But your salary, not hourly, how does that even work? I have no idea. I guess I'll find out when I talk to a lawyer tomorrow. Elena. Carmen's voice shifts into the tone she uses when she's about to give me advice I don't want to hear. You need to quit. Today. Right now. Don't give them the satisfaction of thinking they can treat you like this. And then what? I've been at this company for 7 years. My entire professional network is tied up in this industry. If I quit now, especially after a salary cut like this, it's going to look like I was fired for cause. No one will hire me. So you're just going to accept this? You're going to keep working for $1 a year? I lean back in my chair, watching a plane blink its way across the darkening sky. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But I'm not making any hasty decisions. There's more going on here than just performance management. I tell Carmen about my conversation with Sarah, about the potential financial irregularities, about Victoria's systematic elimination of long-term employees. As I talk, I can hear the marketing strategist in my sister's brain starting to work. Elena, she says slowly, what if this isn't about you at all? What if you're just collateral damage in something bigger? What do you mean? Think about it. If someone was planning to steal from a company, or cook the books, or commit some kind of fraud, what would be their biggest obstacle? I consider the question. People who know how things are supposed to work. People who've been around long enough to notice when things change. Exactly. And you've been there for 7 years. You probably know more about the company's actual operations than most of the executives. The pieces start clicking together in my mind. Victoria's focus on getting rid of long-term employees. The financial irregularities Sarah mentioned. The way Victoria has been taking credit for systems she didn't build while simultaneously documenting reasons to eliminate the people who did build them. Carmen, I think you might be right. I think this might be bigger than just a personality conflict. So what are you going to do about it? I finish my wine and stand up, suddenly energized by a sense of purpose I haven't felt since this whole nightmare began. I'm going to figure out exactly what Victoria Pemberton is really up to. And then I'm going to stop her. Elena, be careful. If you're right about this, then you're dealing with someone who's already shown they're willing to destroy careers to get what they want. Don't underestimate what she might do if she realizes you're onto her. After we hang up, I sit in my apartment as darkness settles fully over the city, thinking about Carmen's warning. Victoria has already demonstrated that she's willing to use corporate systems as weapons against anyone who threatens her agenda. She's shown no hesitation in destroying my financial security to serve her purposes. But what Victoria doesn't understand is that some fights are worth having, regardless of the personal cost. And what she definitely doesn't understand is that when you've spent 7 years building something from the ground up, you develop a very personal relationship with protecting what you've created. I open my laptop and begin documenting everything I can remember about Victoria's changes since she arrived. Every policy modification, every personnel decision, every process alteration. If there's a pattern to be found, I'm going to find it. Because Victoria Pemberton may have cut my salary to $1, but she's made a critical miscalculation. She thinks she's dealing with a powerless employee who will quietly accept whatever treatment she dishes out. She has no idea that she's actually dealing with someone who has access to information that could bring down her entire scheme. Someone who understands this company's operations better than she ever will. Someone who has spent 7 years earning the trust and respect of colleagues who are now watching her every move with growing suspicion. And most importantly, someone who has a secret that would change everything if Victoria ever discovered it. But that revelation will have to wait. Right now, I have work to do. Real work. The kind of work that doesn't pay $1 per year, but might just save the company I helped build from someone who sees it as nothing more than a vehicle for her own ambitions. Victoria Pemberton thinks she's won the first round, but she's about to discover that the game is far from over. And she's playing against someone who knows the rules better than she ever will. Tomorrow, the real work begins. The morning alarm pierces through my restless sleep at 6:30 a.m., but I've been awake for hours anyway, staring at the ceiling and running through scenarios in my mind. My coffee tastes bitter as I sit at my kitchen table, laptop open to a spreadsheet I've been building since 3 a.m. Every suspicious decision Victoria has made, every long-term employee who's been pushed out, every process change that doesn't make operational sense. The pattern is becoming clearer, and it's more disturbing than I initially imagined. I arrive at the office 30 minutes early, using my keycard access to slip into the building before the morning rush. The security guard, Miguel, waves from his desk near the entrance. We've exchanged pleasantries for years, and he looks confused when I explain I need to access some archived files from the basement storage. Ms. Vasquez, you sure you have authorization for that? Ms. Pemberton sent out a memo yesterday about restricted access to historical documents. Of course she did. Another red flag to add to my growing collection. Miguel, I've been accessing those files for system maintenance for 7 years. Since when do I need special authorization? He shrugs apologetically. Since yesterday, apparently. But look, I've known you forever, and you've never caused any trouble. Just don't tell anyone I let you down there, okay? The basement archives smell like dust and old paper, rows of filing cabinets containing the physical backup documentation that predates our digital systems. I know exactly what I'm looking for. The original incorporation documents, the early investor agreements, the foundational contracts that established Meridian Tech Solutions. What I find makes my hands shake as I photograph each page with my phone. According to the documents buried in a file marked Corporate Structure Historical, Marcus Chen didn't found this company alone. The original incorporation papers list 3 co-founders: Marcus Chen with a 40% stake, his business partner David Kim with 40%, and a third party listed as E. Vasquez Holdings LLC with 20%. E. Vasquez Holdings LLC, my father's investment company, established the year before I was born. I sit back on my heels in the dusty basement. Pieces of a puzzle I never knew existed finally clicking into place. My father, Eduardo Vasquez, was a successful entrepreneur who built and sold several tech companies before I was old enough to understand what he did for work. He died when I was 12, leaving behind a trust that paid for my education and provided a modest monthly stipend throughout college. What I never knew was that his final investment, made shortly before his death, was in a startup founded by 2 ambitious young engineers with big dreams and no capital. I continued digging through the files, my excitement growing with each discovery. A series of amendments to the corporate structure show that when my father died, his 20% stake was transferred to the trust established for my benefit. Additional amendments show that over the years, as the company grew and sought additional investment, the trust purchased additional shares during various funding rounds. By my calculations, based on documents that haven't been updated in the company's digital systems, the Eduardo Vasquez Memorial Trust currently owns approximately 80% of Meridian Tech Solutions, and I am the sole beneficiary of that trust, gaining full control upon my 30th birthday, which was 8 months ago. I lean against a filing cabinet, mind reeling with the implications. For 8 months, I've been working as a regular employee at a company I effectively own. For 8 months, I've been taking orders from managers and accepting performance reviews for work I do at a business that belongs to me. For 8 months, Victoria Pemberton has been building a case to eliminate the one person who could expose whatever scheme she's running, never realizing that person has the legal authority to fire her with a single phone call. But why wasn't I told about this? Why don't I have access to ownership documents or voting rights or any of the privileges that should come with an 80% stake in a multi-million-dollar company? I photograph every relevant document, my phone's storage filling up with evidence that could reshape everything. Then I carefully return the files to their proper locations and head back upstairs, mind spinning with questions that need answers. At my desk, I try to focus on routine work while processing the seismic shift in my understanding of my situation. Around me, the office operates normally, colleagues arriving with their morning coffee and settling into their workstations. Nobody knows that the quiet woman in cubicle 47B just discovered she owns most of the company they work for. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Need to talk. Coffee shop across the street, 10 a.m.-S. Sarah from accounting. Using a burner number and cryptic messages suggests she's found something significant enough to warrant extreme caution. At exactly 10 a.m., I cross the street to Brewster's Coffee, a small independent shop that serves excellent espresso and minds its own business. Sarah sits in a corner booth, laptop open, and documents spread across the table. She looks like she hasn't slept. Elena, thank God you came. She gestures for me to sit, glancing nervously around the nearly empty coffee shop. I've been up all night going through financial records, and what I've found is going to blow your mind. She slides a printed spreadsheet across the table. This is Victoria's expense report from last month. Look at these items. I scan the document, noting several unusual entries. Business dinners at expensive restaurants with no client names listed. Travel expenses to cities where we have no operations. Consulting fees paid to companies I've never heard of. $50,000 in consulting fees to Strategic Dynamics LLC, I read aloud. What kind of consulting are they providing? That's the thing, Sarah says, pulling up another document on her laptop. I tried to look up Strategic Dynamics LLC. It was incorporated in Delaware 6 months ago. The registered agent is listed as Victoria Pemberton. The coffee in my stomach turns acidic. She's paying herself consulting fees? It gets worse. Look at this. Sarah shows me another spreadsheet. These are the salary changes she's implemented since arriving. She's cut the pay of 12 long-term employees, all by significant amounts, some by 30%, some by 50%, yours by essentially 100%. I study the list, recognizing names of colleagues who've been with the company for years. Where's that money going? Officially, cost-saving measures to improve operational efficiency. Unofficially, Sarah opens another tab on her laptop. It's being reclassified as executive compensation and operational consulting fees. The money isn't leaving the company, it's just being redirected to different budget categories. Categories that Victoria controls. Exactly. And there's more. She's been renegotiating contracts with our major clients, raising prices significantly. When I asked her about it, she said it was necessary for maintaining profit margins, but the additional revenue isn't showing up in our operational accounts. I lean back in the coffee shop booth, watching steam rise from my untouched latte. The scope of what Victoria is doing is breathtaking in its boldness. She's essentially looting the company from the inside, using her position as regional operations manager to redirect funds to entities she controls, while eliminating employees who might notice the discrepancies. Sarah, why are you telling me this? If Victoria finds out you're investigating her financials, she could destroy your career. Sarah's expression hardens. Because this is wrong, Elena. And because I've been here for 6 years, and I've watched this company grow from nothing into something we're all proud of. I'm not going to stand by and watch some corporate raider gut everything we've built. Have you told anyone else about this? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Because you've been here the longest, and you understand the operational side better than anyone. I figured if anyone would know how to handle this, it would be you. If only she knew just how well positioned I am to handle this. Sarah, I need you to do something for me, and it's going to sound strange. I need you to look up the corporate ownership structure for Meridian Tech Solutions. Not the current organizational chart, but the actual legal ownership documents. She frowns. That's not typically something I have access to. Those documents would be held by the corporate legal department or the board of directors. Try anyway. Check the Delaware Secretary of State database, corporate filings, anything public record. Look for any mention of the Eduardo Vasquez Memorial Trust. Eduardo Vasquez? Any relation to you? He was my father. Sarah nods slowly. Okay, I'll see what I can find. But Elena, what aren't you telling me? You have that look like you know something important. I consider how much to reveal. Sarah has already taken enormous risks to uncover Victoria's scheme, and she deserves to understand the bigger picture. But the information I discovered this morning is so explosive that I need to be absolutely certain before I share it. Let me ask you something first. In all your digging through financial records, have you come across any information about who actually owns this company? Like, who has voting rights? Who sits on the board of directors? Who has the authority to make executive decisions? Sarah shakes her head. That's always been above my pay grade. I assumed Marcus Chen still owned the majority stake, with some angel investors and maybe a venture capital firm holding smaller pieces. But you've never seen actual documentation of that? No, and now that you mention it, that's kind of strange. Most companies I've worked for are pretty transparent about their ownership structure, at least internally. I make a decision. Sarah, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this coffee shop. Not until we have a plan for how to handle it. Her eyes widen, but she nods. This morning I found documents in the basement archives that suggest the ownership structure of Meridian Tech Solutions is very different from what everyone believes. I pull out my phone and show her some of the photographs I took, carefully selecting images that reveal the ownership percentages without showing my name specifically. According to these documents, there's a trust that owns approximately 80% of the company. The trust was established by one of the original co-founders, and it's been acquiring additional shares over the years. Sarah studies the images, her accounting background allowing her to quickly understand the implications. Holy shit, Elena, if this is accurate, then Marcus Chen isn't actually in control of the company. The trust is. Which means Victoria doesn't have the authority to make the changes she's been making. She's essentially committing fraud against the actual owners of the company. But who controls the trust? Who has the authority to step in and stop her? I take a deep breath. That's what we need to figure out. It's not technically a lie, but it's not the complete truth either. I need more information before I reveal my connection to the trust. Specifically, I need to understand why I was never informed of my ownership stake and why the company has been operating as if this trust doesn't exist. Sarah closes her laptop and gathers her documents. Elena, this is huge. We're talking about corporate fraud, embezzlement, maybe securities violations. We need to get this information to the right people. Agreed. But we need to be smart about how we handle it. Victoria has already shown she's willing to destroy careers to protect her scheme. If she realizes we're on to her, she might accelerate whatever endgame she has planned. We part ways with a plan to reconvene tomorrow after Sarah has had time to research the ownership structure, and I've had time to figure out my next steps. Walking back across the street to the office, I feel like I'm seeing everything with new eyes. The building I've entered thousands of times suddenly looks different when I realize I own it. The security desk, the elevator, the reception area with the company logo prominently displayed. All of it technically belongs to me, purchased with investments my father made before I was old enough to understand what compound interest meant. At my desk, I try to focus on routine tasks, while my mind races through possibilities. I need legal advice, but I can't risk Victoria finding out I'm consulting an attorney. I need to understand the mechanisms of the trust, but I can't access those documents without potentially alerting whoever has been managing the trust on my behalf. Most urgently, I need to understand why I was kept in the dark about my ownership stake. Was it an oversight, a protective measure, or something more sinister? My phone rings, displaying a number I don't recognize. Elena Vasquez speaking. Ms. Vasquez, this is Thomas Morrison from Morrison Klein & Associates. I'm calling regarding the Eduardo Vasquez Memorial Trust. My blood runs cold. The timing of this call, less than 6 hours after I discovered the trust documents, cannot be a coincidence. I'm sorry, who did you say you were? Thomas Morrison. I'm the attorney who's been managing your father's trust since his death. I know this call might come as a surprise, but I believe it's time we had a conversation about your inheritance. I step away from my desk, walking toward the building's exit while trying to keep my voice steady. Mr. Morrison, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I received my inheritance from my father years ago. It paid for my education and provided a small monthly stipend. Ms. Vasquez, that was only a portion of your inheritance. The trust includes substantial business holdings that you gained control of on your 30th birthday. I've been trying to reach you for months, but my letters were returned as undeliverable. Outside the building, I find a quiet spot in the parking lot. What letters? I never received any letters about additional inheritance. According to our records, we've been sending correspondence to your address at 847 Maple Street, Unit 15B. I haven't lived at that address in 3 years. I moved and updated my information with everyone I could think of, but I guess I didn't know about your firm. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Ms. Vasquez, this is quite serious. The trust holds an 80% stake in Meridian Tech Solutions, valued at approximately $47 million. As the beneficiary, you have full control of these assets and should have been exercising your voting rights as majority shareholder for the past 8 months. $47 million. The number hits me like a physical blow, and I have to sit down on a concrete parking barrier. Mr. Morrison, I work at Meridian Tech Solutions. I'm an employee there. I had no idea about any of this. You work there? His voice sharpens. Ms. Vasquez, as the majority shareholder, you shouldn't be working there as an employee. You should be on the board of directors, potentially serving as CEO, or at minimum, having final approval over all major corporate decisions. I think we need to meet in person. Today, if possible. Absolutely. Can you come to my office this afternoon? We have a lot to discuss, and given what you've just told me about working as an employee, there may be some serious irregularities in how the company has been managed. I arranged to meet Thomas Morrison at 3 p.m., then returned to the office with my mind spinning. The scope of what's been happening is even larger than I imagined. Victoria's financial crimes are just the tip of the iceberg. The entire corporate structure has been operating under false pretenses for months, with decisions being made by people who don't have the legal authority to make them. At my desk, I open my email and begin documenting everything I can remember about Victoria's changes since she arrived. If I'm about to take control of this company, I need to understand exactly what damage has been done and what needs to be corrected. An email notification pops up on my screen. Victoria Pemberton wants to schedule a meeting with me at 4 p.m. today to discuss my future with the company. The timing feels ominous, coming just hours after my conversation with Sarah and my upcoming meeting with the trust attorney. Does Victoria know something? Has someone alerted her to my investigation, or is this meeting part of her planned next step in pushing me out of the company? I accept the meeting request, then spend the next few hours in a state of nervous energy. Every interaction with colleagues feels surreal now that I know I technically own the company. When Raj stops by to ask about a system configuration issue, I find myself thinking that I could simply order the IT department to give him administrative access instead of explaining the proper request procedures. When lunchtime arrives, I can't eat. My stomach is too knotted with anxiety and anticipation. Instead, I sit in my car in the parking lot, looking up at the building that houses the company my father helped create and that I apparently inherited. The drive to Thomas Morrison's law office takes me through downtown Phoenix, past the courthouse and government buildings, where the legal framework exists to protect property rights and corporate governance. I wonder how many other people have discovered they own something they thought they were just working for. Morrison, Klein & Associates occupies the 15th floor of a glass tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the desert landscape. Thomas Morrison is a distinguished man in his 60s, with gray hair and the kind of calm demeanor that comes from decades of handling complex legal matters. Ms. Vasquez, please sit down. I have to say this is one of the more unusual situations I've encountered in 30 years of trust law. He opens a thick file folder, revealing documents I recognize from this morning's basement expedition along with many others I've never seen. Your father was a remarkable investor, Morrison begins. When he established this trust, he specifically structured it to provide for your immediate needs through college while preserving the business investments for your long-term security. His instructions were clear. You would gain full control at age 30, at which point I was to contact you and transfer all assets to your direct ownership. But I never received that contact. No, and I'm deeply troubled by that failure. My letters were being returned, and when I tried calling the phone number we had on file, it had been disconnected. I should have made more effort to locate you, but frankly, I assumed you were aware of the inheritance and were choosing not to respond. Morrison pulls out a financial statement that makes my eyes widen. The trust's holdings include not just the 80% stake in Meridian Tech Solutions, but also real estate investments, stock portfolios, and other business interests. The total value approaches $60 million. Ms. Vasquez, you are a very wealthy woman. More importantly, you have been the majority owner of Meridian Tech Solutions for 8 months without exercising any of your rights or oversight responsibilities. What does that mean, practically speaking? It means that every major decision made by the company during that time should have had your approval. New hires at the executive level, significant budget changes, operational restructuring, major contracts. All of these require majority shareholder approval, according to the corporate charter. I think about Victoria's hiring, her sweeping changes, her financial maneuvers. None of it had my approval, because I didn't even know I had the right to give or withhold approval. Mr. Morrison, what if I told you that someone has been making significant changes to the company's operations and financial structure without proper authorization? His expression grows serious. That would constitute a breach of fiduciary duty at minimum, potentially rising to the level of criminal fraud depending on the specifics. I spend the next hour detailing everything Sarah and I have discovered about Victoria's activities. Morrison takes careful notes, asking pointed questions about documentation and timelines. Ms. Vasquez, based on what you're telling me, there are multiple violations of corporate law occurring at your company. The individual making these changes does not have the authority to do so, and if she's redirecting funds for personal benefit, that's embezzlement. What can we do about it? Several things. First, we need to immediately establish your identity as the majority shareholder with the company's board of directors. Second, we need to conduct a comprehensive audit of all financial and operational changes made since your 30th birthday. Third, we need to determine whether criminal charges are warranted. Morrison pulls out another document. This is a shareholder resolution that will immediately establish your control over the company. Once this is filed with the corporate secretary, you will have the authority to terminate any employee, reverse any decision, and access any company records, including firing Victoria Pemberton, especially firing Victoria Pemberton. As majority shareholder, you have the unilateral authority to remove anyone from their position, up to and including the CEO. I sign the shareholder resolution with hands that shake slightly from adrenaline. The simple act of putting my name on paper transforms me from employee to owner, from victim of corporate abuse to the person with ultimate authority to stop it. There's one more thing, Morrison says as I prepare to leave. Given what you've discovered about unauthorized changes to the company, I strongly recommend that you don't return to work as a regular employee. The person who's been making these changes may become desperate if she realizes her scheme is about to be exposed. I have a meeting with her at 4 p.m. today. Morrison checks his watch. It's 3:45 now. Ms. Vasquez, I cannot strongly enough advise you not to attend that meeting alone. If Victoria Pemberton realizes you've discovered her activities, there's no telling how she might react. Then what do you suggest? I suggest we attend that meeting together. As your attorney, representing your interests as majority shareholder of Meridian Tech Solutions. The drive back to the office gives me 20 minutes to process the complete transformation of my circumstances. This morning I woke up as an employee facing financial ruin. This afternoon I'm returning as the owner of a multi-million-dollar company with the legal authority to correct months of unauthorized changes. But as Morrison warned, Victoria Pemberton is about to discover that her carefully constructed scheme has been built on a foundation that was never solid. And people who are willing to commit corporate fraud are also people who might be willing to take more extreme measures to protect themselves. The elevator ride to the executive floor feels different now. I'm not going to meet with my boss to discuss my employment future. I'm going to confront someone who has been stealing from a company I own, making unauthorized decisions with my assets, and systematically destroying the careers of employees who work for me. Victoria's assistant waves me toward the corner office, unaware that the person walking past her desk is about to fundamentally alter the power structure of the entire company. Through the glass windows of the conference room, I can see Victoria setting up documents on the table, preparing for what she believes will be a routine meeting to discuss my departure from the company. She has no idea that she's about to meet the person who has the authority to decide her departure instead. Victoria looks up as I enter the conference room, her perfectly composed smile faltering slightly when she sees Thomas Morrison behind me. She recovers quickly, extending her hand in a gesture of professional courtesy that feels more like a chess move. Elena, I wasn't expecting you to bring representation to our meeting. Her voice carries that familiar edge of controlled irritation masked as concern. This was meant to be a simple discussion about your career development. Ms. Pemberton, Morrison speaks before I can respond, his voice carrying decades of courtroom authority. I'm Thomas Morrison, representing Ms. Vasquez's interests. I believe you'll find this meeting more significant than you anticipated. Victoria's eyes narrow as she processes this unexpected development. She gestures toward the conference table with exaggerated politeness. Please, have a seat, though I'm not sure why legal representation is necessary for a routine performance discussion. I settle into the chair across from her, noting how different this room feels now that I know I own it. The expensive conference table, the view of downtown Phoenix through floor-to-ceiling windows, the company logo etched into the glass partition. All purchased with resources that technically belong to me. Ms. Pemberton? Morrison begins, placing a folder on the table. Before we discuss Ms. Vasquez's performance, there are some fundamental issues regarding corporate governance that need to be addressed. Victoria's composure cracks slightly. I'm sorry, but who are you exactly? What authority do you have to discuss our internal corporate matters? Morrison slides a document across the table. I represent the majority shareholder of Meridian Tech Solutions. This is a certified copy of the corporate ownership structure, along with the trust documents establishing my client's controlling interest in this company. Victoria picks up the document, her face paling as she reads. I watch her eyes move across the page, seeing the moment when she realizes the full implications of what she's looking at. Her hand trembles almost imperceptibly as she sets the paper down. This must be some kind of mistake, she says. But her voice lacks its usual conviction. Marcus Chen founded this company. He's the primary stakeholder. Mr. Chen was indeed a co-founder, Morrison replies calmly. However, he has never held a majority stake. The Eduardo Vasquez Memorial Trust has been the majority shareholder since the company's incorporation, and Ms. Vasquez here became the controlling beneficiary of that trust 8 months ago. Victoria's gaze shifts to me, and I see the moment when everything clicks into place for her. The quiet employee she's been systematically undermining, the woman whose salary she cut to $1, the person she planned to eliminate from the company entirely, is actually the person who owns it. That's impossible, she whispers. Elena is just a software engineer. She's been working here as a regular employee for 7 years. Because I wasn't informed of my ownership stake, I say, speaking for the first time since entering the room. Due to communication issues with the trust administration, I only learned about my controlling interest yesterday. Victoria stands abruptly, pacing to the window. I can see her mind racing, trying to calculate the implications of this revelation for everything she's done since arriving at the company. Miss Pemberton, Morrison continues. As the majority shareholder, Ms. Vasquez has several concerns about operational and financial changes that have been implemented without proper authorization. What do you mean, without proper authorization? I'm the regional operations manager. These changes were within my scope of responsibility. Morrison opens another folder, revealing copies of the documents Sarah provided. Were these consulting fees to Strategic Dynamics LLC within your scope of responsibility? Victoria freezes, her back still turned to us. The silence stretches for nearly a minute before she slowly returns to her seat. Those were legitimate consulting expenses for operational efficiency improvements. Strategic Dynamics LLC was incorporated by you personally 6 months ago, Morrison states matter-of-factly. You've been paying yourself consulting fees using company funds without disclosure or approval from the actual owners of the company. That's a serious accusation, Victoria says, but her voice wavers. It's a documented fact, I interject. Just like the fact that you've been systematically reducing the salaries of long-term employees and redirecting those funds to budget categories you control. Victoria's corporate mask finally slips completely. Her face flushes with anger and what might be panic. You have no idea what you're talking about. I've been improving this company's efficiency and profitability. The changes I've made have increased revenue by 15%. By raising client fees and reducing employee compensation, Morrison notes. without authorization from the majority shareholder, which makes these changes invalid and potentially fraudulent. This is ridiculous, Victoria snaps. You can't just walk in here with some dusty trust documents and expect to overturn months of legitimate business operations. I lean forward, finding my voice and my authority for the first time in this surreal conversation. Victoria, I'm not here to overturn your business operations. I'm here to stop your theft. The word hangs in the air like a physical presence. Victoria's face goes white, then red, then settles into a cold mask of calculation. You're making a serious mistake, Elena. I have connections throughout this industry. If you try to destroy my reputation with false accusations, I will make sure you never work in tech again. The threat that would have terrified me yesterday now sounds almost pathetic. Victoria, I don't need to work in tech. I own a tech company. Morrison places another document on the table. Miss Pemberton, this is a cease and desist order regarding all unauthorized financial transactions. Effective immediately, you no longer have access to company accounts or authorization to make budgetary decisions. You can't do this, Victoria protests, but she's reaching for her phone as she speaks. Actually, we can, I say, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. As majority shareholder, I have the authority to terminate your employment immediately, but I'm going to give you a choice. Victoria stops dialing and looks at me with a mixture of fear and fury. You can resign immediately, return all funds you've inappropriately redirected to your personal accounts, and sign a non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, we won't pursue criminal charges. Or, she asks through gritted teeth, or we file a criminal complaint with the Phoenix Police Department for embezzlement, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. The evidence is comprehensive and well documented. Victoria stares at me for a long moment, and I can see her weighing her options. Finally, she reaches into her briefcase and pulls out her laptop. What are you doing? Accessing the Strategic Dynamics account to initiate a funds transfer, she says bitterly. You win, Elena. Congratulations on your little power play. This isn't a power play, Victoria. This is consequences. She spends the next 20 minutes transferring funds while Morrison documents each transaction. The total amount returned to company accounts exceeds $200,000, money that was stolen from employee salaries and diverted to Victoria's shell company. When the transfers are complete, Victoria slides a handwritten resignation letter across the table. Her corporate polish has completely evaporated, replaced by barely contained rage. You have no idea what you're doing, she hisses. Running a company isn't some fantasy where good intentions matter. You'll run this place into the ground within 6 months. Maybe, I reply calmly, but it will be my company to run into the ground, not yours to steal from. Victoria gathers her things with sharp, angry movements. At the conference room door, she turns back one final time. This isn't over, Elena. I know people who can make your life very difficult. Ms. Pemberton. Morrison speaks with the quiet authority of someone who's dealt with similar threats before. I would strongly advise against any actions that could be construed as retaliation or harassment. We have extensive documentation of your activities here, and any further contact with my client or this company could result in additional legal action. Victoria leaves without another word, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor as she walks toward the elevator. Through the conference room windows, I watch her cross the parking lot to her BMW, her movements quick and agitated. Morrison closes his folders with the satisfied air of someone who's just concluded a successful negotiation. Well, Ms. Vasquez, that went about as smoothly as could be expected under the circumstances. I slump back in my chair, adrenaline finally giving way to exhaustion. Is it really over? The immediate crisis is resolved. Victoria Pemberton no longer has access to company resources, and the stolen funds have been returned. However, there's still significant work to be done, such as restoring the salaries of employees whose pay was illegitimately reduced, reviewing all contracts and operational changes made without proper authorization, establishing proper corporate governance procedures. Essentially, you need to assume active control of a company that's been operating without legitimate oversight for months. The magnitude of the responsibility settles over me like a heavy blanket. Yesterday, I was worried about paying my rent on a $1 salary. Today I'm responsible for the livelihoods of dozens of employees and the operations of a multi-million-dollar business. Mr. Morrison, I don't know how to run a company. I'm a software engineer, not a CEO. You're an owner, Ms. Vasquez. There's a difference. You don't necessarily need to run day-to-day operations, but you do need to ensure proper oversight and governance. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. Emergency. Victoria cleaned out her office, and IT says she accessed several restricted databases before her accounts were terminated. We need to talk. Morrison notices my expression change as I read the message. What is it? I think Victoria may have taken sensitive information when she left. We hurry down to the accounting department, where Sarah is waiting with 2 IT technicians and what appears to be every financial document she can carry. Elena, thank God you're here. After Victoria lost access to her accounts, the IT security system flagged unusual database activity from her workstation. She downloaded client lists, financial records, proprietary software documentation, everything she could get her hands on. One of the IT technicians, a young man whose nameplate reads Kevin Chen, looks up from his laptop. I've never seen anything like it. She systematically accessed every database she had permissions for and downloaded terabytes of data. It's like she was planning to take the entire company with her. Morrison's expression darkens. That changes things significantly. Industrial espionage and theft of trade secrets are federal crimes. Sarah spreads more documents across her desk. It gets worse. I've been going through the financial records more carefully, and the embezzlement was just the beginning. Look at these client contracts she renegotiated. I study the documents, noting clause changes that seem innocuous but have significant implications. These cancellation clauses, she's made it easier for clients to terminate their contracts with us. Exactly. And look at these non-compete agreements she's been requiring from new hires. They're so restrictive they're probably unenforceable, but they might discourage people from taking jobs with competitors. Morrison examines the contracts with the practiced eye of someone who's seen corporate sabotage before. She's been systematically weakening your competitive position while simultaneously stealing resources and information. This wasn't just embezzlement, it was preparation for something larger. Kevin looks up from his forensic analysis. I've traced the data downloads. Most of the files were transferred to an external drive, but some were uploaded to cloud storage accounts registered to Strategic Dynamics, LLC. So she has copies of everything, I say, feeling the weight of this new crisis. Not everything, Kevin replies with a slight smile. She didn't have access to the legacy systems or the proprietary algorithms you wrote for the core platform. Those are locked behind additional security protocols. Small comfort, but I'll take it. What can we do about the information she did take? Morrison pulls out his phone. First, we file an emergency injunction to prevent her from using or sharing any proprietary information. Second, we contact the FBI regarding theft of trade secrets. Third, we immediately change all client access credentials and notify them of the potential security breach. The next several hours blur together in a whirlwind of legal documents, phone calls, and crisis management. Morrison coordinates with federal investigators while I work with the IT team to secure our systems and assess the damage. Sarah handles the delicate task of contacting clients to explain the situation without causing panic. By 8 p.m., the immediate security crisis has been contained, but the larger implications are just beginning to sink in. I sit in what used to be Victoria's office, now cleared of her personal belongings and corporate espionage tools, trying to process the day's events. Marcus Chen appears in the doorway, looking confused and concerned. As one of the original co-founders, he's been briefed on the ownership revelations and Victoria's activities, but he still seems to be processing the information. Elena, I owe you an apology, he says, settling into the chair across from the desk. I had no idea about your father's investment or your ownership stake. If I had known, none of this would have happened. Marcus, you couldn't have known. I didn't know until yesterday. But I should have questioned Victoria's changes more carefully. I trusted her credentials and her experience, but I should have been more protective of the company culture we built together. I study Marcus's face, seeing genuine remorse and confusion. What do you want to do now? This is still your company too, even if I own the majority stake. Marcus runs his hands through his graying hair. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm cut out for the corporate politics anymore. When I started this company, it was about building something meaningful with people I trusted. Victoria turned it into something I don't recognize. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time for new leadership. You understand the technical side better than anyone, and you clearly have the company's best interests at heart. Maybe you should consider taking an active role in running things. The suggestion terrifies and excites me in equal measure. Marcus, I don't have any management experience beyond leading development teams. Neither did I when we started. But I had passion for the work and respect for the people doing it. You have both of those things, plus something I never had, actual ownership stake in the success of the company. Sarah appears in the doorway, looking exhausted but determined. Elena, I've finished contacting all our major clients. Most of them are understanding about the security breach, but 3 are requesting immediate meetings to discuss their contracts. Which 3? Peterson Industries, Southwest Medical, and Integrated Logistics. Combined, they represent about 30% of our revenue. Marcus stands up, straightening his shoulders with newfound resolve. Elena, if you're willing to take on the responsibility, I'd like to propose that you assume the role of CEO effective immediately. I'll stay on as Chief Technology Officer and help with the transition, but I think the company needs leadership that has skin in the game. The weight of the decision presses down on me, but underneath the fear, I feel something else. The same excitement I felt 7 years ago when I first walked into this building as a young engineer with big dreams. Sarah, schedule those client meetings for tomorrow morning. Marcus, I accept your proposal, but I want you to stay involved in strategic decisions. We built this company together, even if I didn't know I was an owner at the time. Sarah grins, the first genuine smile I've seen from her all day. Does this mean we're restoring everyone's salaries? Effective immediately. And Sarah, I want you to take on the role of Chief Financial Officer. You've proven you have the integrity and attention to detail we need to prevent something like this from happening again. Elena, I'm not sure I'm qualified. You're the person who uncovered Victoria's scheme when you could have just kept your head down. You're exactly the kind of person I want making financial decisions for this company. Marcus extends his hand for a shake that feels more like a partnership agreement. Welcome to management, Elena. Try to remember us little people when you're running a Fortune 500 company. I laugh, feeling lighter than I have in months. Marcus, you're still a 20% owner. You're hardly a little person. The next morning arrives with a flurry of activity that would have overwhelmed me a week ago, but now feels manageable. My first executive decision is to move my office from Cubicle 47B to the corner suite Victoria vacated. Not for the status, but for the practical necessity of having space for the meetings and strategic discussions that are now part of my daily reality. Raj stops by during the morning transition, helping me carry boxes of personal items from my old desk to my new office. Elena, I have to ask, how are you handling all this? Yesterday you were worried about paying rent, and today you're the CEO. Honestly, I'm terrified and exhilarated and confused all at the same time. But you know what? For the first time in months, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The client meetings that Sarah scheduled proved to be less challenging than expected. When I explain the situation honestly, acknowledging the security breach while outlining the steps we've taken to prevent future incidents, most clients express relief that someone is taking responsibility, rather than trying to cover up the problems. Peterson Industries representative, a no-nonsense woman named Janet Peterson, actually seems impressed by the transparency. Elena, in 30 years of business, I've rarely seen a company handle a crisis this directly. Most executives would have spent the meeting trying to minimize the situation or shift blame. Ms. Peterson, I believe in treating our clients as partners. If there's a problem that affects your operations, you deserve to know about it and to understand how we're addressing it. By the end of the day, all 3 concerned clients have agreed to continue their contracts, and 2 have actually expressed interest in expanding their services now that they feel confident in the company's leadership. Sarah knocks on my office door as the sun sets over Phoenix, carrying a bottle of champagne and wearing the biggest smile I've seen from anyone in weeks. Elena, I just finished reconciling all the financial accounts. With the returned embezzled funds and the restored salary structure, we're actually in better financial shape than we've been in months. How is that possible? Victoria's consulting fees and inflated expense reports were draining more resources than I initially calculated. Without those fraudulent costs, Our profit margins have improved significantly. Morrison arrives shortly after Sarah, carrying a thick folder of legal documents and wearing the satisfied expression of someone who's just concluded a successful case. Ms. Vasquez, I have updates on several fronts. The FBI has opened a formal investigation into Victoria Pemberton's activities, and they've recovered most of the stolen data from her cloud storage accounts. Additionally, the injunction has been granted, preventing her from using any proprietary information. What about criminal charges? The federal prosecutor is reviewing the case, but given the amount of money involved and the interstate nature of the data theft, charges are very likely. Victoria Pemberton's career in corporate management is effectively over. As the week progresses, the company settles into a new rhythm that feels both familiar and completely different. The technical work continues as it always has, but there's a renewed energy in the office, a sense that people's contributions are valued and their job security is no longer at the whim of someone else's ambitions. Kevin Chen, the IT technician who helped uncover Victoria's data theft, approaches me on Friday with an innovative security protocol he's designed to prevent similar breaches in the future. His enthusiasm and technical expertise remind me of myself 7 years ago, and I make a mental note to consider him for a promotion to head of cybersecurity. Marcus proves to be an invaluable partner in the transition, handling the technical oversight that allows me to focus on strategic and operational issues. Our working relationship evolves quickly from employee-founder to partner-partner, built on mutual respect and shared vision for the company's future. On Friday evening, as most of the office empties out for the weekend, I sit in my new office reviewing the week's accomplishments. Salaries restored, security enhanced, client relationships strengthened, and a financial fraudster removed from a position where she could do further damage. My phone buzzes with a text from Carmen. Dinner Sunday? I want to hear all about your corporate takeover. I laugh, typing back, it wasn't a takeover, it was a homecoming. And that's exactly what it feels like. For 7 years, I worked at this company as an employee, contributing my skills and dedication, but always operating within limitations set by others. Now, with the authority that comes from ownership, I can make decisions based on what's best for the company and its people rather than what's expedient for someone else's agenda. The view from the corner office window shows downtown Phoenix beginning to light up for the evening, the city where I've built my career and now, unexpectedly, where I've discovered I own a significant piece of the technology sector. Sarah appears in my doorway one final time, car keys in hand and weekend plans clearly on her mind. Elena, before I leave, I wanted to say thank you. For what? For trusting me with the CFO position. For believing that someone could grow into a role they've never held before. For showing all of us that integrity and competence matter more than corporate politics. After Sarah leaves, I remain in the office for another hour, not because there's urgent work to be done, but because I want to savor this moment of transition. The quiet building, the city lights beginning to twinkle outside, the sense of having found my place in a world that seemed determined to diminish my value. My phone rings, displaying Morrison's number. Elena, I wanted to update you on the final legal matters. Victoria Pemberton has been formally charged with embezzlement and theft of trade secrets. She'll likely face significant prison time if convicted. How do you feel about that outcome? Honestly? Relieved. Not because I want to see her suffer, but because there are consequences for her actions. She tried to destroy careers and steal from a company that people have spent years building. Justice matters. I agree. And Elena, I want you to know that your father would be incredibly proud of what you've accomplished this week. He invested in this company because he believed in its potential, but more than that, he structured the trust to ensure you would have the resources and authority to make a difference when the time came. After Morrison hangs up, I sit in the gathering darkness of my office, thinking about the father I barely remember, but whose foresight protected not just my financial future, but the future of everyone who works at this company. Victoria Pemberton cut my salary to $1 because she saw me as an obstacle to her schemes, a longtime employee who might notice the irregularities in her financial manipulations. She never imagined that the quiet software engineer she was trying to eliminate actually owned the company she was trying to loot. In trying to destroy my career, she inadvertently forced me to discover my true position and take control of a situation that could have continued indefinitely if I had remained unaware of my ownership stake. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the catalyst for the best thing that could happen to you. On Monday morning, I arrive at Meridian Tech Solutions not as employee Elena Vasquez reporting to Cubicle 47B, but as CEO Elena Vasquez, ready to lead a company that has been mine all along without my knowing it. The building looks exactly the same, but everything has changed. The security guard waves with the same friendly greeting, but now he's greeting the owner rather than just another employee. The elevator carries me to the same floor, but now I'm going to an office where I make decisions rather than implement them. At 9 a.m., I hold my first all-hands meeting as CEO, addressing the entire company in the main conference room. Looking out at the faces of colleagues who have become my responsibility, I feel the weight and the privilege of leadership. I know this week has been unusual for everyone, I begin, and I want to address the changes directly. As many of you have heard, there were serious irregularities in our financial management and corporate governance. Those issues have been resolved, and I want to assure you that your jobs are secure and your contributions are valued. Raj raises his hand from the back of the room. Elena, what can you tell us about the salary adjustments? Effective immediately, all salary reductions implemented over the past 3 months have been reversed. You'll see the corrections in this week's payroll, including back pay for the period when your compensation was inappropriately reduced. The relief in the room is palpable, shoulders relaxing, and worried expressions giving way to cautious optimism. I also want to announce some organizational changes. Sarah Mitchell has been promoted to Chief Financial Officer, bringing the integrity and attention to detail that helped uncover the financial irregularities. Marcus Chen will continue as Chief Technology Officer, while I assume the role of CEO. A hand goes up from the development team. What's your vision for the company going forward? I take a breath, feeling the weight of the question and the opportunity it represents. My vision is the same as it's always been: to build innovative technology solutions that solve real problems for our clients, while creating a workplace where talented people can do their best work without worrying about corporate politics or job security. After the meeting, employees approach individually to express support, ask questions, and share their relief that the company is back on stable footing. The consensus seems to be that while the week's events were shocking, the outcome feels like a return to the company culture that originally attracted them to Meridian Tech Solutions. Marcus stops by my office late in the afternoon, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing an expression of satisfied exhaustion. Elena, I've been thinking about what happened this week, and I keep coming back to one thing. Your father must have known. Known what? That someday the company would need someone with both technical expertise and personal investment in its success. Someone who understood the work from the ground up and had the authority to protect it from people who would exploit it for personal gain. I consider Marcus's observation, thinking about the trust structure my father created and the timing of my gaining control, just as Victoria's scheme was escalating. Maybe you're right, or maybe he just wanted to make sure I had the resources to pursue whatever path felt right to me. Either way, I'm grateful for the opportunity to help protect what we built together. As the sun sets on my first official day as CEO, I remain in the office reviewing strategic plans and operational reports, not because I have to, but because I want to understand every aspect of the company I now lead. The phone on my desk rings, displaying a number I don't recognize. After a moment's hesitation, I answer. Elena Vasquez speaking. Elena, this is David Kim. The name stops me cold. David Kim, my father's original business partner, the other co-founder I've never met. Mr. Kim, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I heard about what happened with Victoria Pemberton and your assumption of the CEO role. I wanted to call and congratulate you, and also to apologize. Apologize for what? For not staying in touch after your father died. Eduardo and I agreed that the company would be stronger with professional management while you were growing up, but we should have ensured you knew about your inheritance when you turned 30. David's voice carries genuine regret, and I find myself curious about this piece of my history I never knew existed. Mr. Kim, would you be interested in meeting for coffee sometime? I'd love to hear more about the early days and my father's vision for the company. I would be honored, Elena. And I want you to know, based on what I've heard about how you handled this crisis, your father would be incredibly proud of the leader you've become. After we arrange to meet the following week, I sit in my office as the building empties around me, thinking about the unexpected journey that brought me from Cubicle 47B to the CEO's office in the span of a single week. Victoria Pemberton intended to eliminate me from a company she saw as her personal opportunity for advancement and enrichment. Instead, her actions forced me to discover that I already owned the company she was trying to steal from. In cutting my salary to $1, she inadvertently revealed that I didn't need a salary at all, because the company itself belongs to me. Sometimes the person who tries to destroy you ends up being the catalyst for you discovering just how powerful you actually are. And sometimes, when someone tries to take away everything you think you have, you discover you actually own everything they thought they could steal. 6 months have passed since Victoria Pemberton walked out of Meridian Tech Solutions in disgrace, and the transformation of the company has exceeded even my most optimistic projections. The morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office as I review the quarterly financial reports that Sarah prepared, each number telling a story of recovery and growth that would have seemed impossible during those dark days when my salary was cut to $1. Our revenue has increased by 43%, driven not by the predatory pricing strategies Victoria employed, but by genuine innovation and improved client relationships. The development team, freed from the oppressive micromanagement and constant threat of arbitrary termination, has produced 3 major software updates that have attracted new clients and strengthened existing partnerships. Kevin Chen, now our Chief Information Security Officer, knocks on my office door with his characteristic enthusiasm. His promotion from IT technician to executive leadership represents the kind of merit-based advancement that I want to be the hallmark of our company culture. Elena, I wanted to give you an update on the Prometheus project. The Prometheus project represents our most ambitious undertaking since I assumed leadership, a comprehensive cybersecurity platform that leverages artificial intelligence to predict and prevent data breaches before they occur. The project emerged from Kevin's initial work securing our systems after Victoria's industrial espionage, but has evolved into something that could revolutionize how companies protect their digital assets. The beta testing results exceeded all our projections, Kevin continues, settling into the chair across from my desk. The AI successfully identified and neutralized simulated attacks with a 97% success rate. More importantly, it did so without generating the false positives that plague existing security systems. I lean back in my chair, allowing myself a moment of pride in what our team has accomplished. Kevin, this could be the breakthrough that establishes us as a major player in the cybersecurity market. There's more. TechCrunch wants to do a feature article about the platform, and we've received preliminary inquiries from several Fortune 500 companies about licensing agreements. The irony isn't lost on me that Victoria's attempt to steal our proprietary information ultimately led to the development of a security system that could generate more revenue than all our existing products combined. Her betrayal forced us to examine our vulnerabilities and develop solutions that now position us as industry leaders. Sarah appears in the doorway, carrying a tablet and wearing the satisfied expression of someone who's just balanced books that show exceptional performance. Elena, the final numbers are in for Q3. We're not just profitable, we're exceeding the growth projections by 18%. What's driving the increased performance? Multiple factors. The restored employee morale has increased productivity across all departments. Our client retention rate is at an all-time high. And the Prometheus project pre-sales are already generating significant revenue before we've even launched. Sarah joins Kevin in the sitting area of my office, and I move from behind my desk to join them. These informal strategy sessions have become a cornerstone of our leadership approach, replacing the rigid hierarchical meetings that characterized Victoria's brief reign with collaborative discussions that leverage everyone's expertise. There's something else, Sarah continues. I've been analyzing the financial projections, and if current trends continue, we're on track to triple our valuation within 2 years. The magnitude of that statement settles over me like a warm blanket. When I discovered my ownership stake 6 months ago, the company was valued at approximately $60 million. If Sarah's projections prove accurate, My 80% stake could be worth over $140 million within 24 months. But more than the financial implications, the growth represents validation that the collaborative, employee-focused leadership approach is not just morally superior to Victoria's authoritarian style, but also more effective at generating sustainable success. Marcus appears in the doorway, tablet in hand and a grin that suggests he's carrying good news. Elena, I just got off a call with the patent office. The Prometheus AI algorithms have been approved for full intellectual property protection. All of them? Every single component. Kevin's neural network architecture, the predictive modeling system, even the user interface design. We now hold patents on technology that could be worth hundreds of millions in licensing revenue alone. Kevin's face lights up with the kind of joy that comes from seeing years of work receive official recognition. This means other companies can't simply reverse engineer our approach. They'll have to license our technology or develop entirely different methodologies. I stand and walk to the window, looking out over downtown Phoenix as I process the implications of our success. The city where I grew up, attended university, and built my career is now home to a technology company that I own and lead, generating innovations that could impact cybersecurity practices worldwide. Team, I want to schedule an all-hands meeting for this afternoon. It's time to share our success with everyone who made it possible. The afternoon meeting draws our entire staff into the main conference room, faces that have become familiar over the past 6 months, but which I now see with the perspective of shared accomplishment rather than inherited responsibility. These are people who chose to stay with the company during the uncertainty following Victoria's departure, who contributed their talents to projects that had no guaranteed outcome, who trusted in a vision of collaborative success over individual advancement. 6 months ago, this company faced a crisis that could have destroyed everything we spent years building, I began, looking out over colleagues who have become partners in this unexpected journey. Today, I'm proud to announce that we've not only recovered from that crisis, but we've achieved performance levels that exceed anything in our company's history. I share the financial results, the Prometheus project success, and the patent approvals, watching faces light up as the scope of our collective achievement becomes clear. Raj raises his hand from his usual spot in the back of the room. Elena, what does this mean for our future growth and employment security? It means we're not just stable, we're positioned for expansion. Based on our current trajectory, we'll be hiring 25 new employees over the next year, and I'm implementing a profit-sharing program that ensures everyone benefits from the success they've helped create. The room erupts in spontaneous applause, not the polite corporate clapping that accompanies routine announcements, but genuine celebration from people who understand they're part of something meaningful. I also want to announce some additional organizational changes. Kevin Chen's promotion to Chief Information Security Officer is now permanent, and he'll be leading a new cybersecurity division. Sarah Mitchell's excellence as Chief Financial Officer has enabled our growth, and she'll be taking on additional responsibilities as Chief Operating Officer. After the meeting, employees linger to ask questions, share ideas, and express their appreciation for the transparent communication that has become our standard practice. The energy in the room feels electric, charged with the possibility that comes from being part of an organization that values both individual contributions and collective success. As the office begins to empty for the evening, I remain at my desk, reviewing development schedules and strategic plans that extend far beyond anything I could have imagined 6 months ago. The phone rings, displaying Morrison's familiar number. Elena, I have news that I think you'll find interesting. Victoria Pemberton's trial concluded this afternoon. I set down my pen, giving Morrison my full attention. What was the verdict? Guilty on all counts: embezzlement, theft of trade secrets, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution, though given the amount she spent, recovering the money will likely be challenging. How do I feel about that outcome? Morrison pauses before responding. You tell me, how do you feel? I consider the question carefully. 6 months ago, I would have felt satisfaction at seeing Victoria face consequences for her actions. Today, the dominant emotion is something closer to relief that the legal chapter of this story has finally closed. I feel like justice was served, but more importantly, I feel like we've moved beyond needing that justice to define our success. Victoria's scheme failed, not because she was punished, but because we built something stronger than what she tried to destroy. That's a remarkably mature perspective, Elena. Your father would be proud not just of your business success, but of the leader you've become. After Morrison hangs up, I sit in the quiet of my office as Phoenix transitions from day to evening, lights beginning to twinkle across the desert landscape. The view from my window encompasses the city where I've spent my entire adult life, but the perspective feels entirely different, now that I see it as the headquarters of a company that bears my family's legacy. My phone buzzes with a text from Carmen. Dinner tomorrow. I have news about my promotion, and I want to hear about your world domination plans. I laugh, typing back. Not world domination, just ethical business practices that happen to be highly profitable. The next evening, Carmen and I sit on the patio of her favorite Mexican restaurant, sharing chips and salsa while catching up on the dramatic changes in both our careers. She recently accepted a senior marketing director position with a pharmaceutical company, a role that represents her own journey from employee to executive leadership. Elena, I have to ask, do you ever think about what would have happened if Victoria hadn't cut your salary? Would you have discovered your ownership stake? The question has occurred to me many times over the past months. Probably not anytime soon. I was comfortable in my routine, focused on technical work rather than corporate governance. I might have worked there for another decade without knowing I owned the company. So in a weird way, Victoria did you a favor by being so obviously corrupt and vindictive. In the weirdest possible way, yes. Her attempt to eliminate me from the company forced me to discover that I actually controlled the company. Carmen raises her margarita in a mock toast. To Victoria Pemberton, the worst manager who accidentally became your best career advisor. We laugh, but the underlying point is serious. Sometimes the obstacles that seem designed to destroy us actually redirect us toward opportunities we never would have pursued voluntarily. The following week brings a development that I hadn't anticipated, but which feels like a natural evolution of our success. David Kim, my father's original business partner, requests a meeting to discuss a proposal that could reshape the entire trajectory of Meridian Tech Solutions. We meet at a quiet restaurant in Scottsdale, away from the office environment where our previous conversations have taken place. David has aged gracefully since the early photos I've seen from the company's founding. His hair silver now, but his eyes still sharp, with the entrepreneurial intelligence that helped build our industry. Elena, I've been watching your leadership over the past 6 months, and I'm impressed not just by the financial results, but by the culture you've created. Your father and I always believed that technology companies succeed when they prioritize people over profit, and you've proven that approach can be both ethical and highly profitable. Thank you, David. That means a lot coming from someone who knew my father's vision for the company. David opens a folder, revealing documents that immediately capture my attention. I want to propose a merger between Meridian Tech Solutions and Phoenix Dynamics, the company I founded after selling my original stake. Phoenix Dynamics, I know from industry publications, is a successful data analytics firm that complements our cybersecurity focus without directly competing. A merger could create a comprehensive technology platform that addresses multiple aspects of corporate digital infrastructure. What are you proposing specifically? Phoenix Dynamics would merge with Meridian Tech Solutions, with you maintaining majority control and serving as CEO of the combined entity. The merger would create a technology company valued at approximately $200 million, with capabilities spanning cybersecurity, data analytics, cloud infrastructure, and artificial intelligence. The scope of the proposal takes my breath away. 6 months ago, I was struggling to pay rent on a $1 salary. Today, I'm being offered the opportunity to lead a corporate merger that would create one of the largest independent technology companies in the Southwest. David, why now? Why this proposal? Because your father and I always intended to rebuild what we started together, but we wanted to wait until you were ready to lead it. Watching you handle the Victoria Pemberton crisis and grow the company proved that you have both the technical expertise and leadership skills to manage something much larger. I study the merger documents, noting the careful attention to employee protections, cultural integration, and long-term strategic planning. This isn't a corporate acquisition designed to strip assets or eliminate redundancies, but a genuine partnership aimed at creating something larger than either company could achieve independently. I need to discuss this with my team before making any decisions. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Elena, I want you to know that your father would be incredibly proud of the leader you've become and the opportunities you're creating for everyone who works with you. The drive back to the office gives me time to process the magnitude of David's proposal. A merger of this scale would require careful planning, extensive due diligence, and the kind of strategic thinking that extends far beyond my experience as a software engineer turned CEO. But it would also represent the fulfillment of a vision that my father apparently held for decades, a technology company that could compete with industry giants, while maintaining the values and culture that make work meaningful for everyone involved. At the office, I gather Marcus, Sarah, and Kevin for an emergency strategy session. The merger proposal is too significant to evaluate in isolation, requiring input from the people who understand both our current capabilities and our long-term potential. Team, I need your honest assessment of a major opportunity that's been presented to us. I outlined David's merger proposal, watching their expressions shift from surprise to excitement to careful calculation as they consider the implications. Marcus speaks first, his voice carrying the weight of someone who's been part of the company since its inception. Elena, this could be the breakthrough that establishes us as a major industry player. Phoenix Dynamics has technology and client relationships that complement our strengths perfectly. Sarah, ever focused on the financial implications, pulls out her tablet and begins calculating projected revenue streams. The combined entity would have the resources to pursue enterprise contracts that are currently beyond our capabilities. We could compete for government contracts, Fortune 100 clients, international expansion opportunities. Kevin's enthusiasm is palpable as he considers the technical possibilities. Elena, imagine combining our AI-driven cybersecurity platform with Phoenix Dynamics' predictive analytics capabilities. We could offer clients comprehensive digital protection that no other company currently provides. What are the risks? Sarah's expression becomes more serious. Integration challenges, cultural conflicts, the complexity of managing a much larger organization. Plus, we'd be taking on debt and regulatory requirements that don't currently apply to us. But, Marcus adds, we'd also be creating something that could generate revenue streams we can't even imagine right now. The patent portfolio alone would be worth hundreds of millions. I lean back in my chair, weighing the perspectives of people whose judgment I've learned to trust implicitly. 6 months ago, these same people were concerned about job security and basic operational stability. Today, they're evaluating opportunities to create a technology company that could reshape entire industries. I want each of you to spend the next week evaluating this proposal from your area of expertise. Sarah, I need comprehensive financial projections. Kevin, I need technical integration assessments. Marcus, I need your perspective on whether this aligns with our long-term vision for the company. Over the following week, I find myself working longer hours than I have since the crisis that first revealed my ownership stake. The merger proposal requires analysis of market conditions, competitive landscapes, regulatory requirements, and operational complexities that extend far beyond anything I previously encountered as a software engineer. But underneath the analytical work, I feel the same excitement that drew me to technology in the first place. The possibility of building something that doesn't currently exist, of solving problems that haven't yet been solved, of creating opportunities for talented people to do work that matters. Sarah's financial analysis reveals that the merged entity would be profitable from day one, with projected revenue growth that could make it a billion-dollar company within 5 years. Kevin's technical assessment confirms that the integration challenges are manageable and the combined capabilities would create genuine competitive advantages. Marcus's strategic evaluation concludes that the merger aligns perfectly with the collaborative, innovation-focused culture we've built. On Friday afternoon, I called David Kim to schedule a follow-up meeting. David, my team has completed our evaluation of the merger proposal. We're interested in moving forward with due diligence and formal negotiations. Elena, that's wonderful news. I believe this partnership could create something that exceeds even your father's original vision for what a technology company could become. That evening, I remain in the office after everyone else has left, looking out over the city lights of Phoenix and thinking about the journey that brought me from a cubicle to a corner office to the possibility of leading one of the largest independent technology companies in the region. Victoria Pemberton intended to eliminate me from a company she saw as her personal opportunity for advancement, Instead, her actions set in motion a chain of events that led to me discovering I own the company, assuming leadership, transforming its culture and performance, and now evaluating opportunities that could establish us as industry leaders. Sometimes the person who tries to destroy your career ends up being the catalyst for you discovering career possibilities you never imagined. My phone rings, displaying Morrison's number. Elena, I wanted to update you on the final legal matters related to the Victoria Pemberton case. All civil matters have been resolved, and I can officially close our file on that situation. Thank you, Thomas, for everything. I don't think I could have navigated any of this without your guidance. Elena, it's been my privilege to watch you grow from someone who didn't know she owned a company to someone who's about to lead a major corporate merger. Your father would be incredibly proud of the leader you've become. After Morrison hangs up, I sit in the quiet of my office, thinking about the transformation of the past 6 months and the possibilities that lie ahead. The merger with Phoenix Dynamics represents not just business growth, but the fulfillment of a vision that my father apparently held for decades. Tomorrow, I'll begin negotiations that could create a technology company valued at over $200 million. Next month, I'll be managing integration processes that could establish us as industry leaders. Next year, I'll potentially be running an organization that employs hundreds of people and generates innovations that impact businesses worldwide. But tonight, I'm simply Elena Vasquez, sitting in an office that belongs to me, in a company that my father helped create, leading a team of people who chose to build something meaningful together. Victoria Pemberton cut my salary to $1 because she saw me as an obstacle to her schemes. She never imagined that the quiet software engineer she was trying to eliminate would discover she actually owned the company Victoria was trying to steal from. In the end, Victoria's attempt to reduce my value to $1 led to me discovering I was worth 80% of a multi-million-dollar company. Her effort to eliminate my influence resulted in me gaining ultimate authority. Her scheme to advance her own career destroyed her professional future, while creating opportunities for mine that extend far beyond anything I previously imagined possible. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the catalyst for the best thing that could happen to you. Sometimes the person who tries to take away everything you think you have ends up helping you discover you actually own everything they thought they could steal. And sometimes when someone cuts your salary to $1, you discover you don't need a salary at all because you own the entire company. 2 years after the merger with Phoenix Dynamics, I stand before a packed auditorium at the Phoenix Convention Center, preparing to deliver the keynote address at the Southwest Technology Summit. The audience includes CEOs, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, and innovators from across the region, many of whom have followed the remarkable transformation of what is now called Meridian Phoenix Technologies. The company that Victoria Pemberton tried to loot has grown into a technology powerhouse employing over 400 people across 3 states, with annual revenue exceeding $300 million. Our AI-driven cybersecurity platform has become the industry standard, protecting Fortune 500 companies from digital threats, while our data analytics division helps organizations optimize their operations in ways that seemed impossible just a few years ago. But standing here today, looking out over an audience that includes some of the most successful business leaders in the Southwest, I'm not thinking about revenue figures or market share. I'm thinking about the journey that brought me from a cubicle, where I earned $1 per year, to a stage where I'm recognized as one of the region's most influential technology executives. Ladies and gentlemen, I begin, my voice carrying easily through the auditorium sound system. I want to tell you about the worst day of my professional life, and how it became the catalyst for everything good that followed. I share the story of Victoria's salary reduction, the discovery of my ownership stake, and the subsequent transformation of the company, watching faces in the audience react with surprise, anger, and ultimately inspiration as the narrative unfolds. The speech becomes more than a business presentation. It becomes a testament to the power of resilience, integrity, and the sometimes hidden opportunities that exist within apparent disasters. The lesson isn't that every setback contains a hidden blessing, I continue, but that our response to adversity often determines whether that adversity becomes a stepping stone or a stumbling block. Victoria Pemberton intended to destroy my career, but her actions forced me to discover capabilities and opportunities I never knew existed. After the presentation, I'm approached by dozens of attendees sharing their own stories of professional challenges that led to unexpected opportunities. A young entrepreneur tells me how being fired from her marketing job led her to start a successful consulting firm. A veteran engineer explains how a corporate downsizing forced him to pursue the invention that became his company's breakthrough product. The pattern emerges clearly. Many of the most successful people in the room can trace their achievements back to moments when everything seemed to be falling apart, when external forces threatened to derail their carefully planned careers, when they had to choose between accepting defeat or finding strength they didn't know they possessed. During the networking reception that follows, Sarah approaches with a champagne flute and the satisfied expression of someone who's just concluded successful negotiations. Elena, I have news about the European expansion. The London office lease has been signed, and we've received regulatory approval to operate in the UK market. The European expansion represents our most ambitious growth initiative, establishing Meridian Phoenix Technologies as a truly international company with the capability to serve clients across multiple continents. The London office will be our first location outside North America, staffed initially by 25 employees, and projected to generate $50 million in revenue within its first 2 years of operation. Sarah, that's incredible news. What's the timeline for launching operations? We'll begin hiring next month, with the first client contracts scheduled to begin in Q2. Marcus has already identified 3 candidates for the London technical director position, all of whom have experience with both European regulations and our technology platforms. Marcus joins our conversation, tablet in hand, and the energetic expression that indicates he's been solving complex technical challenges. Elena, the London expansion is going to require some modifications to our AI algorithms to comply with EU data protection regulations, but Kevin's team has already developed solutions that actually improve the platform's performance. The complexity of managing an international technology company would have seemed overwhelming to the software engineer who worked in Cubicle 47B just a few years ago. Today it feels like a natural evolution of the collaborative, innovation-focused approach that has driven our success from the beginning. Marcus, I want you to personally oversee the London technical integration. This expansion needs to maintain the same quality standards and company culture that have made us successful here. Kevin approaches our group, phone in hand, an expression indicating he's carrying significant news. Elena, I just received confirmation from the patent office. Our latest AI innovations have been approved for international protection, including the European Union, Japan, and South Korea. The international patent portfolio represents intellectual property valued at over $500 million, technology that emerged from the security challenges we faced during Victoria's data theft, but has evolved into solutions that address cybersecurity needs across multiple industries and geographic markets. Kevin, this positions us perfectly for the global expansion. We'll have patent protection in every major market where we plan to operate. The evening concludes with an awards ceremony where Meridian Phoenix Technologies receives recognition as the Southwest's fastest-growing technology company, an honor that would have seemed impossible during those dark days when Victoria was systematically undermining our operations and stealing our resources. Accepting the award on behalf of our entire team, I look out over an audience that includes many of the region's most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders, people who have built companies, created jobs, and contributed to the economic vitality of our community. This award belongs to every employee of Meridian Phoenix Technologies, I say, holding the crystal trophy that represents years of collaborative effort. Our success demonstrates that companies thrive when they prioritize people over politics, innovation over exploitation, and long-term value creation over short-term profit extraction. The following Monday brings a development that represents both vindication and closure. Morrison calls with news about Victoria Pemberton's post-prison activities, information that arrives exactly 3 years after she walked out of our conference room in disgrace. Elena, I thought you should know that Victoria was denied parole and will serve her full 4-year sentence. More significantly, she's been barred from holding any corporate executive position for life due to the severity of her financial crimes. How do I feel about that news? You tell me. How do you feel? I consider Morrison's question while looking out the window of my office, now located in the penthouse suite of Meridian Phoenix Technologies' new headquarters building. The view encompasses downtown Phoenix, the desert landscape beyond, and the airport where planes carry our products and services to clients around the world. I feel like justice was served, but more importantly, I feel like we've built something so much stronger than what she tried to destroy that her actions are now just a historical footnote in our success story. That's exactly the perspective your father would have wanted you to develop. Eduardo always believed that the best response to adversity was creating something positive that makes the original problem irrelevant. After Morrison hangs up, I spend several minutes thinking about the trajectory that brought me from victim of corporate abuse to leader of a company that employs hundreds of people and generates innovations that protect businesses worldwide. Victoria's scheme failed not because she was punished, but because the collaborative, ethical approach she tried to eliminate proved to be more effective at generating sustainable success than her authoritarian, exploitative methods. My phone buzzes with a text from Carmen. Saw your keynote speech online. Dad would be so proud of everything you've accomplished. Dinner this weekend to celebrate your continued world domination? I laugh, typing back. Still not world domination, just ethical business practices that happen to be highly profitable and internationally scalable. The afternoon brings a meeting that represents the culmination of everything we've built over the past 3 years. Representatives from 3 major technology companies have requested discussions about potential acquisition offers, recognizing that Meridian Technologies has become valuable enough to attract attention from industry giants. The acquisition offers are substantial, ranging from $800 million to over $1 billion, figures that would make me one of the wealthiest individuals in Arizona. But as I review the proposals with my executive team, the financial numbers seem less important than the question of whether selling would serve the long-term interests of our employees, clients, and innovations. Elena, Marcus says during our private discussion after the formal presentations, this is an opportunity to secure financial independence beyond anything we could have imagined when we started this journey. Marcus, I'm already financially independent. The question is whether selling serves our mission of building technology that solves real problems while creating meaningful work for talented people. Sarah, characteristically focused on the comprehensive implications, spreads financial projections across the conference table. The acquisition offers are attractive, but our internal growth projections suggest we could be worth twice as much if we remain independent for another 5 years. Plus, Kevin adds, the acquiring companies want our technology and client relationships, but they're not necessarily committed to maintaining our culture or our approach to employee development. I walk to the window, looking out over the city where I've spent my entire career, thinking about the responsibility that comes with leading an organization that has become significant enough to influence entire industries. Team, I want each of you to consider this question. Are we building something because we want to sell it? Or are we building something because we believe it makes the world better? The answer, when it comes during our follow-up discussion the next day, is unanimous. Meridian Technologies will remain independent, continuing to grow organically, while maintaining the collaborative culture and ethical practices that have driven our success. We'll revisit acquisition possibilities in the future, I announced to the executive team, but right now, we're having too much fun building something meaningful to hand it over to someone else. That evening, I remain in the office after everyone else has departed, reviewing strategic plans that extend our vision 5 years into the future. International expansion, new product development, advanced research initiatives, and partnerships that could establish us as global leaders in cybersecurity and data analytics. The phone rings, displaying a number I haven't seen in over a year. David Kim, my father's former business partner and the architect of our successful merger, calling from his retirement home in Sedona. Elena, I wanted to congratulate you on turning down the acquisition offers. That took courage and wisdom. David, how did you hear about that so quickly? The technology industry is smaller than you think, especially when you're talking about billion-dollar deals. Word travels fast among people who've been in this business for decades. I hope we made the right decision. Elena, you made the decision your father would have made. Eduardo never built companies to sell them. He built them to solve problems and create opportunities for people to do work that mattered to them. After David hangs up, I sit in the quiet of my office, thinking about the legacy my father created and the responsibility I've inherited to steward that legacy in ways that honor his vision, while adapting to opportunities he could never have imagined. The journey from a $1 salary to leading a billion-dollar company has taught me that success isn't measured only in financial terms, but in the impact we have on the people who work with us, the clients who depend on our innovations, and the communities where we operate. Victoria Pemberton's attempt to reduce my value to $1 ultimately led to the discovery that I owned 80% of a company that would grow into an international technology leader. Her effort to eliminate my influence resulted in me gaining the authority to build something that creates meaningful work for hundreds of people, while generating innovations that protect businesses worldwide. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for achievements you never imagined possible. Sometimes the person who tries to destroy your career ends up forcing you to discover capabilities that transform entire industries. And sometimes, when someone cuts your salary to $1, you discover that you don't need their salary at all, because you own something far more valuable: the opportunity to build a legacy that extends far beyond any paycheck, creating value that benefits everyone who participates in the vision. The lights of Phoenix twinkle below as I finally prepare to leave the office, carrying with me the satisfaction of leading an organization that proves ethical business practices and collaborative leadership aren't just morally superior to exploitation and authoritarianism, but also more effective at generating sustainable success. Victoria Pemberton is serving the final months of her prison sentence, her career destroyed by the crimes she committed in pursuit of short-term personal gain. Meanwhile, the company she tried to loot has become a testament to the power of integrity, innovation, and the kind of leadership that elevates everyone it touches. Tomorrow brings new challenges, new opportunities, and new possibilities for building something that makes the world better while creating prosperity for everyone involved. But tonight, I'm simply grateful for the journey that brought me from Cubicle 47B to a place where I can influence entire industries, while honoring the vision my father had for what a technology company could become. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, but success so comprehensive that it makes the original injury irrelevant. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.